Hi, I never thought I would tell this story, but maybe someone can learn from my mistake. My name is Emma. I'm 29 years old, and I made a choice that cost me everything. I've always been a confident person, someone who knew exactly what she wanted from life. I grew up in a home filled with warmth and stability. My parents were together for decades, and to me, they were the perfect couple. I believed in love, in loyalty, in the idea that the right people could stay together forever. During college, I focused on my studies and building a career. I had a few relationships, but none of them ever felt like the one. Love came and went, but I was sure that when the right person came along, I'd just know. And that's exactly what happened when I met Nathan. We met at a friend's birthday party. He wasn't the loudest or the most charming guy in the room. He was quiet, reserved, with no need to impress anyone. And somehow, that's exactly what drew me to him. There was something genuine about him, something deeper than just words or grand gestures. We started talking about books, and before I knew it, we had spent the entire evening lost in conversation. With him, everything felt easy. He wasn't trying to put on a show or be someone he wasn't. He was just himself. A year later, we moved in together. I still remember our first morning in our new apartment. The smell of coffee, sunlight streaming through the curtains, his smile as he made breakfast. That was the moment I knew. I want to spend the rest of my life with this man. Nathan was steady, reliable, predictable, in the best way possible. With him, I felt safe. We faced everything together: work stress, financial struggles, the little arguments that every couple has. But we always found a way to talk things through, to understand each other. Our wedding was small, just close friends and family. We didn't want anything extravagant. What mattered was us. I remember looking into his eyes as I said, "I do," completely certain that this was forever. I believed our love was strong enough to survive anything. I never imagined that the biggest test of our marriage would come from me. Nathan and I had been married for almost 5 years, and for all those years, I loved him. He was my partner, my best friend, the man I built a life with. Our relationship was solid, steady. I never saw any cracks. Even when things started to shift, I refused to acknowledge them. But something was changing. We were together, but we were losing that closeness. The connection wasn't as strong as it used to be. And that's when the doubts started creeping in. I craved something new, something exciting. And then I met someone who made me question everything. His name was Ryan. He was a new colleague at work, and we were assigned to the same project. At first, he was just that, a coworker. But as time passed, I found myself drawn to him. Not just as a person, but as a man. We started talking more, having lunch together, texting late at night. He was witty, charming, always genuinely interested in what I had to say. I told myself it was nothing, that it was just friendly conversation. But deep down, I knew better. Ryan was different. He was vibrant, bold, full of energy. He was the kind of person who could make any conversation feel exciting. He noticed the little things. If I seemed stressed, if I was having a bad day. He made me laugh. And at some point, I started looking forward to seeing him. I told myself it was innocent, but then I started comparing him to Nathan. He's more fun. He makes me feel alive. And that was my mistake. I don't know exactly when my thoughts shifted. First, it was just curiosity. Then it was justification. I started convincing myself that if Nathan and I had fallen into a routine, maybe we were holding each other back. I read articles about open marriages, about how passion fades but can be reignited. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe I could have both. The security of Nathan and the thrill of something new. And so, I brought it up to Nathan. I knew it would be a difficult conversation, but his reaction still caught me off guard. At first, he completely shut down the idea. He said it was disgusting, unacceptable. But a few days later, he brought it up again. He said he had thought about it, and maybe I should try. I was surprised by his change of heart, but I took it as a sign of trust, a chance to explore. The first time I was with Ryan, it felt exhilarating. The excitement, the attention, it was intoxicating. But after each encounter, when I came home to Nathan, something inside me felt off. With every passing day, the feeling got worse. I started feeling dirty, like I wasn't just betraying Nathan, I was betraying myself. Nathan changed after I told him about Ryan. He became distant, quieter. He still acted like everything was okay, but I felt the wall between us growing. He spoke less, avoided eye contact. And the worst part? I could see how much pain he was in. Any attempt I made to start a conversation or bring back the warmth we once had was met with indifference or short, dry responses. We no longer laughed together, no longer hugged just because. Our home had grown silent. Not a peaceful silence, but a heavy, almost suffocating one. I could feel us slowly becoming strangers, like two random roommates living under the same roof but barely crossing paths. I caught myself dreading the evenings, dreading the moments when we were alone. Because the silence between us screamed louder than any words ever could. One evening, I made his favorite dinner, seafood pasta. I lit candles, did everything I could to make the night feel even a little bit like it used to. He came home, tossed his keys on the table, and didn't even glance in my direction. He just sat down, started eating slowly, and then, without lifting his eyes from his plate, said flatly, "You didn't have to go through all this trouble." And that was it. No smile. No thank you. I waited for at least a look, something that would say more than words. But it never came. All that remained between us was the clinking of his spoon against the plate and a deep emptiness growing inside me. The moment I truly understood it was over was the night he didn't show up for my parents' anniversary. He had always treated them with warmth and respect, could spend hours talking to my dad about fishing or flipping through old family photos with my mom. He never missed these gatherings, no matter how tired he was. But this time was different. "I just don't feel like going," he said indifferently, without even looking up from his phone. I stood in the doorway, already dressed, holding the gift from my parents in my hands. I waited. Maybe he'd change his mind. But no, he didn't even glance at me, just kept scrolling through his feed. So I went alone. I spent the evening sitting at the table, listening to toasts and laughter, trying to hide what I was feeling. But at one point, my mom leaned over and quietly asked, "What's wrong?" And that's when I knew. It was over. He was no longer the person I used to know. Or maybe the real problem was that we were no longer us. My parents kept asking about him throughout the evening. Where he was, why he hadn't come. My dad frowned, saying he hoped everything was okay, while my mom gave me that searching look, the one only a mother can give when she senses something is wrong. I forced a smile, made up a vague excuse. Something about work, about him being too tired. They nodded, accepting my words, but I could see the doubt in their eyes. The more they asked, the harder it became to keep up the act. I laughed at the right moments, joined in conversations, but inside I felt like I was unraveling. The truth was sitting heavy in my chest, and no matter how hard I tried to push it away, I couldn't ignore it anymore. By the time I left that night, I wasn't just sad. I was exhausted. Not from the evening itself, but from pretending. From trying to convince everyone, including myself, that things weren't as bad as they seemed. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't just a rough patch. This wasn't something that would fix itself. And then, I found out the truth. Nathan had never been with anyone else. He hadn't gone on dates, hadn't explored other options. He had just let me believe he had. Instead, he spent his nights alone, sitting in bars, drinking with friends, doing anything to avoid going home to me. I tried to imagine what that must have felt like for him. Watching me walk through the door, knowing I had just been with another man. Holding back his pain, pretending to be okay. And that's when I realized This was the end. I had lost everything. Ryan had been an illusion, an escape. And one night, as we sat in his apartment, I looked at him and felt nothing. No excitement, no passion. He wasn't my love, my friend. He was just a reminder of what I had destroyed. I told him it was over. He didn't seem surprised. He just nodded and said, "I kind of knew this would happen eventually." I walked out of his apartment feeling both relieved and completely broken. And then reality hit me. Who could I turn to? My mom? Tell her that I had thrown away the marriage she thought was perfect? His mom? The woman who used to hug me and say, "Thank you for being in Nathan's life"? My friends? Number. Because I wasn't the victim. I was the one who did this. And that's what destroyed me. I didn't just ruin my marriage. I shattered everything. The life we built, the family we had, the trust, the love. And the worst part? Some mistakes. Can't be undone. Now I wake up in an empty bed. I miss his voice, his scent, his stupid habit of only drinking coffee from one mug. I miss how he'd always touch my back when we walked together. I miss him. I still love him. But I know that love alone isn't enough. Because once you cross certain lines, there's no going back. And I paid the price.